Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Jeff Mosher and Adam Caplan, a middle of the week Inside the Birds. The Eagles, Adam, coming off one of their maybe their most complete performances of the season, a 37-17 blowout of the Bengals. We'll recap a little bit of the All-22. We'll get into some of the injuries that are still, plaguing the team a little bit as they try to get healthy, but seems like each game, Adam, there's a victim in
Yeah.
some form or fashion, and we'll get into that. But obviously, they have the Jaguars on deck, and the Jags might be hurting as much, if not more,
They are.
than they are. They're
Yeah.
really, really hurting. So good time for the Eagles as they, as I like to say, like a pilot would say, they're starting to make their ascent here and get themselves.
Yeah, they are. Boy, that was such a fascinating game. You and I haven't done a show since, oh, we did the post game show, but this is our first show during the week. And as you said, we'll update injuries for both teams. And I'm really looking forward later in the show to your film notes, because you and I talked earlier in the day, and you have some stuff that's fascinating. So we look forward to getting those notes from you. But the thing is that, and this is such a great win where it looked bad early, but much like the Green Bay game, the defense hung in there. It was the key to that thing was not giving up the second touchdown. Instead of being down 14-3, they're down 10-3. And then they tied it. Then they kind of took over. It was a fascinating game, and it's tough because the Bengals have a lot of offense. We talked about it. It looked like Joe Burrow was going to throw for 500 yards after the first series.
Yeah,
You know, he was on a
yeah.
roll, and then they slowed him down. They actually made him move off his spot. We know we'll talk to you about your film notes. We talked to Greg and Jason, Jason Avant last night on our show for Patreon. That was phenomenal. Back to back live streams with Greg and Jason. That was phenomenal. But the bottom line is they found a way to win. That's what the season's about. They're really playing good football. Their schedule is fascinating. It's you got Jacksonville this week who's reeling with. We'll get into their injury situation later in the show. But look, they still got to face Dallas. I know Dallas is really bad at home. They're struggling, but they got the Commanders in week 11. That's not going to be easy. And by the way, the Rams now with Puka Nacua back and Cooper Kupp, well, they looked like world beaters last week. And then they play the Ravens. So then it becomes tougher.
Yep, the Steelers also getting a little bit
Yep.
better offensively to complement their great defense. I tell you, the one thing that really jumps out that's not just a tape-based observation from this game, but just over the last 3 weeks that I think is not necessarily opponent specific, meaning we don't have to say, but it was the Browns or but it was the Giants or but it was the Bengals, right? The one thing that jumps out is that they're just fundamentally playing better defense. We know they're explosive on offense, and it was nice to see them put methodical drives together, which we knew they could do. But if you had questions about their abilities to just make tackles, especially in open space or against the run, which we all did after about the first 2 or 3 games, they have really improved in that area. And again, even if you're playing a bad team, Malik Neighbors is an explosive athlete. Amari Cooper on the Browns at the time is an explosive athlete. And of course, Jamar Chase is an explosive athlete. Chase Brown can make some moves. So the Eagles are just doing a better job of playing a cleaner brand of defense and really executing the principles that Vic Fangio is hoping for. Now, are they a great lockdown, Steelers type? Yeah, I think, they're growing, they're learning, but you have to start somewhere. And I think for them, they had to start with just cleaning up bad fundamentals on defense. And so far over 3 weeks, I think they've done a nice job of that.
Yeah, the bad run fits earlier in the season, they've
Yep.
cleaned that up. That's
Yep.
been corrected, and now that's been rectified. Obviously it could go wrong at any game, but right now their run defense is really improved.
Mm-hmm.
They're covering way better in the back end overall. Yes, the first series was abominable. They were playing. They were given basically what we call free release. I mean, it was pitch and catch, much like the Baker Mayfield game. But then they put the clamps on. It was much better. I mean, they got the picture. Vic's talked about it. He's left it up to the corners to, if they want to play press, to play press, and they did a little of it, not much. But the key is they were way better with discipline on the back end. That's the thing. They they
100%.
they keep they keep everything in front of them. This is the true Fangio defense. Like Gannon, by the way,
Yes.
that was the key in 2022 for the improvement of the defense. Don't give up deep ball. They were sick of the word coming from the Eagles was they were sick of the ball going over their heads
Yeah.
of the DBs when in coming into the 21 season, which is a bigger reason why they wanted to run the Fangio scheme. Now they've got the real Fangio, and there's a transition period to the real thing. When you are running someone else's scheme, that's one thing. But when the real guy comes in, he's got to learn the players, the coaches, the new coaches on defense. Almost everyone is new, not everybody, but almost everyone is new.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had to learn them, and they're doing a much better job. It's been kind of a joy. The other thing I want to talk about, just touch
Mm-hmm.
on, we haven't really talked about this much, is to see the player development. A lot of guys have the Zach Bond story is a liar because he wasn't their player, but he's been an unbelievable story. Like he might be the biggest surprise of the roster
Mm-hmm.
overall, not just offensive defense. I'm talking about on the roster. I mean, he's come out of nowhere to play a position he's never played before. But you're seeing DeJean. He's been terrific for 3 games. I know it's only 3 games. Quinion is getting better and better and better.
Yep.
Isaiah Rogers stepped in.
Yep.
That was good. He had to do it. I mean, Slade left. He was the next guy up. He did a good job. Jalen Carter's playing more consistent football. You're seeing that. Nakobe Dean playing more downhill. You're seeing that. Van Sumeren in this crazy role, this fullback on offense, and then special teams role. We know he's a pretty good athlete.
Yeah.
Ojomo, Booker have improved. We've heard
Good to see
behind
the young guys, especially. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, you just said Ojomo and Booker are younger.
Yep.
Trotter behind the scenes, we understand, is getting better. Nolan Smith is making some plays. Sweaty's been more consistent this season. That's why they're 5-2. We can talk about their schedule and all that. That's it's fair game, and it's going to get harder at some point, very soon next month. But the bottom line is you're playing clean football, efficient football, smart football, and they're playing more disciplined football, as you were saying. I would agree with you there, and it's a good story. Not everything's great, but they've improved greatly. There's no question about it.
Yes, without a doubt. All right, so this is a big week from an injury standpoint for two guys in particular on offense. One being Dallas Goedert. He's missed 6 straight practices with the hamstring injury. He's been replaced, and I think the two guys have done a really nice job, Grant Calcaterra and Jack Stoll. Grant's caught some passes. He certainly did against the Bengals, and Jack Stoll has had some nice blocks, especially on the Devontae Smith touchdown. He was blocking the defensive end, so good job by Jack Stoll there. But, Dallas Goedert has missed 2 games. The Eagles never put him on IR, so you have to think that they were figuring he'd be back before 4 games. So, Adam, I would think there's a chance, unless you have other intel, that this week we'll see if he can at least get out there and limited and do something to try to get himself ready. Because if he's not, then you think, well, geez, I think the Eagles thought maybe by this time they'd at least be able to get him to do something, or else they would have put him on IR.
Yeah, usually you like with Jordan Mailata, we'll get to him in a second. They did it immediately to get those games to count immediately that week.
Right.
So that one, he got hurt in the Browns game. Then the next week they put him on IR. So yeah, with Goddard, it's a hamstring injury. He's an older player now. He's got to get out there and show he could do something. You don't play. He obviously will not play this week unless he gets out there and even gets limited. He's got to get out there. But they're in good hands here. This has been a nice story. Jalen has really trusted Grant Calcaterra. This is their 3rd year together. He is a big time run after the catch tight end. He can run, man. We're seeing it, man. The run after the catch stuff is big. And Jack Stoll's been a good story. It's interesting. What would have happened if Jack Stoll didn't get cut by the Giants? Who would be there? Who would right now? Who would be filling in for Goddard for the Y role, the inline role?
I guess either EJ Jenkins, or they would have gone elsewhere, right? Like they would have tried to maybe Uzama's in there trying to do it, and if he has anything left, you're right. It would have been a pretty big drop off potentially.
Right, and they've played the roster tango. We came up with that term 6 years ago, and we keep saying it. But this is interesting. They're making sure that whatever elevations. In fact, I don't know if this. Let me see. Jenkins has got one more left. He's got one elevation left, so they're saving that and they're taking the risk. Jack Driscoll is basically, if they need him to be, as an extra blocker, and obviously they've got Johnny Wilson, the blocking receiver, as that extra guy. And I know he's not a tight end, but he blocks.
Yep, he blocks on that perimeter. That perimeter blocker, well. Johnny Will, blocking wide receiver, as we call him. All right, so we'll see. We'll see though. If Goddard comes back, an already improving offense can get itself even more complete. And talking about those sustainable drives and having a guy in who's not necessarily giving you a tell. The Eagles have managed well without him, but obviously they want him back. So we'll see like you said, this is a big week to see if he can get out there. And the same thing for Mekhi Becton, although Tyler Steen has been filling in and doing an excellent job. Still think, and I'm sure you agree, that once uh, Mekhi Becton's healthy, he'll be back there at right guard. We have seen that it's not easy to come back in one game and sometimes not two, like Devontae Smith with the concussion. So we'll have to see
Yeah,
if he's able to. He's got to get on the field, but that doesn't mean he's cleared concussion protocol. Like we tell everybody, getting on the field is part of the protocol.
correct.
The end is when you are finally cleared by an independent neurologist.
Yes, and the club doctor, yes. So yeah, and that's the thing with Becton. He hasn't even gone out yet and work. Just you would know he would be at the return to practice part if he was on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's getting through the rest of the week without any setback. Because the problem is with the protocol, if you have a slight headache, you go back to step one, it means you're not playing that week. Yeah, so yeah, it's not like you go back. If you're at step five, you don't go back to step four, you go back to step one. It sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the issue with it. And then Darius Slay, look, I'd be surprised personally if he played this week. It would be a nice story. Older player, oldest starting corner, outside corner in the National Football League. He had testing on Monday. If he can't play, if he doesn't get cleared, it says Isaiah Rodgers. And Isaiah's been looking for the chance to play, and he's getting his chance. This is if he gets to start this week, this would be big for him. And by the way, the Jags, we'll get into their injury situation in a couple minutes here. They've got some very talented receivers. They're just beat up at that position.
Yeah, the Jags are weird because they're still not winning games, but they're starting to at least throw the ball around a little bit better in their losses than earlier in the year when their offense was just abysmal and atrocious to watch. But now they're scoring points, but they're still losing, but now they're losing players on offense. So the mess that is the Jaguars continues. So we'll see on Becton and what he's able to do this week. We'll see on Slay. Would you say that that's a big loss? I mean, I think what we've seen in small doses is a good play from Isaiah Rodgers, and obviously the tip drill interception that CJ got from Isaiah's PBU is a good thing. But I would say that it's still not. You're still on a backup corner, and that hasn't always been a great situation for the Eagles in the past.
Well, a couple things here that separates him from the other guys they've had. A, he can run. B, he's been a nickel now. He was a nickel outside corner for the Colts. Whereas Kenny Moore would go inside and nickel, and Isaiah would come in and play on the outside. But he's a smaller guy. He's 175 to 180. You worry about that. But he can run. There's no question about it. And he's a guy who's looking for a chance. This could be a great opportunity. We'll obviously know more later in the week where Slay's at. But look, their depth of corner is way better this year than last year. And Ringo's their four. Ringo's got better length. He's just not as fluid athlete like Rodgers, and Eli Ricks is there. Eli Ricks had to play a lot last season, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of ran out of corners. So they're in a better position to do this. And Rodgers is on a prove-it deal, a one-year minimum deal, no guaranteed money. And he's been a nice story. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll definitely know by kind of the injury report and how it's going as the week goes on if we're trending toward Isaiah Rodgers starting in place of Darius Slay. All right, and that'll be it basically for the Eagles injuries there. As we mentioned, Mailata is still has 2 games to go on injured reserve before he can come off. So Fred Johnson will continue to get the run there at left tackle. Let's get into the Jaguars injuries in 1 second. All right, Adam, it is that time of the year. We got Sixers basketball, Flyers hockey, college football, local college football now entering November. It gets real awesome to go to college football games in November. And of course, plenty of great concerts, theater shows near you. How do you get tickets to all of these wonderful live events? You use the Game Time app. We've been telling you about their great new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You got to check out their super deal. It tells you what the super deal is and how good it is and why it's such a great value compared to other tiers of deals. And then they have other deals that they offer that will give you similar great value. So it's a great experience. It's a very user-friendly experience when you're using Game Time and using those Game Time picks. And of course, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. And that includes the event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and of course, the lowest price guarantee or Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets using Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Adam, Jaguars injuries. We mentioned they are hit hard at wide receiver. They lost their veteran wide receiver, Christian Kirk, to a broken collarbone he's out for the rest of the year. It happened in Sunday's loss to the Packers. And the replacement for him, this is an interesting guy. A guy I'm familiar with, second-year wide receiver, Parker Washington. He was a sixth-round pick in 2023. Now, he also replaced Kirk last year when Kirk got hurt. Parker Washington's one of those smart, crafty wide receivers who can be productive at times. It's weird. He was a sixth-round pick. He doesn't have great size, and I don't think he tested the way wide receivers generally test to get drafted really high. But he's not a bad player. He's got a knack for being able to catch the ball.
He does. In fact, he's also filling in as a returner for Devin Duvernay. Devin Duvernay is a two-time Pro Bowler. He was with the Ravens as that Pro Bowler. So Washington, who's had a couple big returns in his career, he's filling in at punt return and kick return, and also now as their slot receiver. They're a big, heavy 11 personnel team. So this is a problem. It's a downgrade. Kirk's what we call a vertical slot. He could run. Smaller guy. He's been hurt a lot, but pretty good player. Remember that crazy contract that he had? I think it was, what, $17 million a year or something like that?
Yeah, crazy at the time, yes.
Yeah, shocked everyone, exactly. And then Gabe
looks
Davis,
like a bargain now, Adam. You got guys making
like
28 to 30 million a year.
And then we've got Bryce Huff is making 17 million a year. Oops.
Right.
But Gabe Davis got hurt. He's had this recurring shoulder problem. He only lasted 9 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
They think he'll be able to go, but again, the problem there is they don't know how long he'll be able to go. Then Brian Thomas, boys, he's been ahead of schedule. Their first-round pick out of LSU. He's got a chest contusion.
Yeah.
They're thinking, from what I understand, is they think he'll be limited this week, but they do believe he'll be able to play. But this is his first injury, so they got to see him get through it. Travis Etienne has missed the last 2 games due to a hamstring injury. As I understand, he was fairly close last week, but they wanted to get it 100%. Tank Bigsby kind of struggled last year. Boy, he's been a good story. He's done a great job. And Dearness Johnson is backing him up. Dearness used to be with the Browns. He's I'm told, a really good pass protector. He's their third back. So if Etienne cannot play, it's Bigsby and Johnson. And then we'll have more about this situation on Friday. Then their offensive line also went through injuries. Ezra Cleveland, I'm told, should play. He has an ankle injury. They thought the Brandon Sheriff injury might be a little bit problematic. He got hurt with a knee problem, but they think he's going to be able to go. He just may not do much. But the big story here, and I was stunned that they did this, they benched Cam Robinson, their left tackle. He did have a concussion. He was cleared to play, but Walker Little, who was in his 4th year out of Stanford, who's played right and left tackle for them, they may go forward. They have decided whether Walker Little is going to be their starter the rest of the season at left tackle. Cam Robinson's on the last year's extension, so he's clearly not getting a new deal. And this is what happens when you're struggling. And you talked earlier about their offense had been really disappointing so far. Lately better. This may be part of it. And Cam Robinson was clearly benched.
So it sounds like a lot of guys are banged up, but the only one who's really out for and not going to play, obviously, is Christian Kirk. Yeah, we'll see some. So because Doug Peterson mentioned, he was proud of his team for being able to score some points with all these injuries, but they were that they were relegated to a lot of 12 personnel against the Packers, which is hard. You want to be, I know, because he had nothing else. And that's hard. It almost felt like Doug's last year with the Eagles, where he had to play a lot of 12 because he was besieged with injuries. So, but it sounds like if they can go, you'll see Gabe Davis on the outside, you'll see Brian Thomas on the outside, Parker Washington in the slot, and frankly, Bigsby has been a more productive running back this year than Etienne when Etienne's
yes, 100%. He's been a good story. Good. The London game, he looked great. Yeah. So, and then they got this kid, number 15, Tim Jones, who's an undrafted free agent, 21, who could fly. That's why he's on the roster. This guy could run. I saw him at training camp a couple of times. I know he could run. So, and then Evan Ingram is over his hamstring injury. He's always had injuries, but he's an athlete. He's really a giant receiver, is what he is. So they've got talent, man. That's not the problem. They've just been wildly inconsistent, disappointing, quite frankly, in offense. And we'll get to their defense in a second. Their defense, which I know they were really excited to have Ryan Nielsen as their defense coordinator. They fired Mike Caldwell and his staff pretty much. Ryan Nielsen did a great job with Atlanta. Boy, he comes here, and I don't know what's more disappointing, their offense or defense. Their defense is really not stopping anyone. They did some good things last week. I know they lost 30-27, but they've just not been good. They just very disappointing. Lack of discipline on the back end. They had some injuries. Tyson Campbell, their best corner, had been hurt. He's
The
back. Ronald
linebackers
Darby.
I know were hurt too, right? Lloyd and
Alukin just came back. You're right.
yeah.
Alukin just came back, right? He came off IR. Darnell Savage had an injury. Trayvon Walker has been inconsistent. He flashes, but they should have taken the guy that Detroit drafted, as we know.
I mean, he does have 6.5 sacks. I would think if you're
Yeah.
going to take a look at their pass rush, you'd blame the other guy who's paid more, Josh Allen, who only has 3 sacks right now.
Yeah.
Not a bunch of hurries. It seems like he's not been a difference maker.
Well, Walker's been a nice player, but he's been okay. He's flashed, but he's Aiden Hutchinson's a way better player. It's not even compared. It's not even close.
Absolutely.
Aiden Hutchinson's like one of the best players in the NFL, and unfortunately, he's out. But they brought over Eric Armstead, who played for. He was with the GM Trent Baalke and with the Niners, so obviously he knows him. They should be better. You meant Devin Lloyd has not been the player that they thought he would be. I mean, he's talented, but he hasn't been the stud that a lot of people thought he would be. So we'll see what happens. Look, any given week, anybody's capable of playing well for them. They've got a good talented roster, but they've severely underachieved. I know the fans can't stand, on Press Taylor and social media. They go after him. And Doug, they're fed up because Doug came in 2 years ago. They were so good out of the blue. Doug's first year on that white horse, came in like the hero. And last year they had, what did they lose? 5 out of 6.
Oh, I think it was 7 out of the last 8, right? It was
Well,
bad.
including the first game of the season. Yeah, something like that. So it was a total choke. They should have won that division.
Yeah.
They choked, and fans are fed up. And yeah, they should be better than they are, but they are what they are. We just mentioned their injury situation. We'll update it on Friday, and then Ronald Darby, he's boy, helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl 7 years ago. He left after 9 snaps. Buster Brown, Monteric Buster Brown filled in, who's started off and on for filling in whoever's been. Tyson Campbell started for, Ronald Darby started for. He was a 7th rounder in 2022. That guy will be a guy the Eagles would go after if Darby can't play. Trust me on that one. The other teams have. So we'll see.
I would think so. By the way, every once in a while we go through rosters of different teams. And I'm like, oh, that's where that guy is. I haven't, and that's how I felt when I saw Ronald Darby on the Jaguars. He seemed to resurrect his career with the Ravens, right? He was with the Ravens and had played pretty decently. The Broncos before that. And then it's like, where did he go? Oh, he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This 6th team, Bills drafted him, Eagles traded for him, then Washington, Denver, he signed a big deal, Baltimore, and now Jacksonville. Somehow he's only 30. He turns 31 in January, but Ronald's he's still doing it. But yeah, that's a team that's always capable. It's a non-conference game. I know the Eagles play at Dallas the week after. I know teams can have letdowns. If you remember the last time they played him here, remember that was the rain-soaked game when I think Trevor Lawrence had 5 fumbles. The 5 fumbles.
Oh my God, was it 5? I think it was an absurd number of fumbles, and then somebody dropped a wide open. Who's the guy? Who's the speedy guy? Agnew. He dropped. Wide open pass.
Yep, Jamal Agnew. You're right.
Oh no,
you're
you
right.
know what? He was wide open in the end zone, and I think Lawrence tried to throw him the ball and fumbled it. You're right. It was
something happened with Jamal Agnew.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the list of the injuries for the Jags and for the Eagles. Let me ask you this, Adam. How have you been feeling from an injury standpoint? You all right?
Yeah, I am. Well, you know why? Because I go to Stretch Zone. We're proud to announce our partnership with our friends at Stretch Zone. And you could just do what I did. My 3-year anniversary will be in December.
Nice.
I walked into their Exton location. I've been encouraged by my friend Dave Spadaro with the Eagles to do it. I finally went in, and it really changed my life, to be honest with you. And why would I say something that strong? I went in there, as an avid tennis player as I was then. That was my 2nd year playing tennis. And I just wanted to be able to move, I didn't quite know how to stretch. So Dave said, go get your hamstrings done. So I got my hamstrings done. I got 3 or 4 things done. Matt Abrams stretched me. He was the general manager. He oversees all their stores. And I'm telling you, it was a game changer. I know John Kincaid of 97.5 The Fanatic. He goes in there as well. But let me tell you something. As an avid tennis player, I know you're going to go in soon. You're a pickleballer. I felt unbelievable. The big thing for me mentally is I had a problem, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I had a problem bending down to my left and my right. Something in my mind, Geoff, would tell me not to do it. You know how your mind plays tricks on you? After I got my stretch, my 30-minute stretch, the next time I played tennis, I couldn't believe it. I was bending down. If you're watching me on YouTube, so it's the greatest thing ever. I do it twice a week is what I do. I like to do it right before I play. Like if I'm playing at noon, I go in at 11. I go from 11 to 11:30, wherever whatever one I want to go to. By the way, they're in Haverford. They have 12 local locations in PA, New Jersey. Haverford on Lancaster Avenue, Devon near the Whole Foods, Exton near the mall, South Philly, Washington Ave, Montgomery County, where I grew up in Elkins Park, off Old New York Road in that plaza, Upper Dublin Dresser off 611 in Feasterville. Be like me and like Geoff, just go to stretchzone.com, sign up for your demo stretch. It's only you do the half an hour. It's very easy. They ask you when you go in, it's a short consultation. How you feeling? They ask you what you think you need. They make some suggestions for your first one, and it's a half an hour. And they're throwing this in. Not only do you get the half an hour stretch, they're going to give you 10% off if you mention Inside the Birds if you sign up for a program. Trust me, folks, I'm living it. I've done it now for almost 3 years, and I'll never not do it. It has been an absolute game changer. I cannot wait till you go later this week, by the way.
Yep. I'm going
I cannot
Friday for
wait
the
to
first time at Cherry
go
Hill.
Friday.
I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm very, very
Cannot
excited.
wait. And again, go to stretchzone.com to sign up. It takes less than 1 minute. And you can pick the time whenever you want to do it. And they're great. And I trust these people, by the way. The other thing is I have such a high trust level with them. They will take good care of you. Go to stretchzone.com and tell them we sent you.
I can't wait to go. And yes, make sure you tell them Inside the Birds, Adam and Geoff sent you. All right, good stuff there. Let's get into just a few notes from the game against the Bengals. Um, let's start offensively. You know, I really thought there, and we'll talk about it with Greg Cosell for Inside the Tape Thursday. You know, everything always starts up front and protection. And I thought Fred Johnson, he did get help, but there were some really significant plays in the game where he didn't get help and he had to block Trey Hendrickson one-on-one.
Yep.
Thought he did a really nice job of doing that. And obviously Tyler Steen filling in for Mekhi Becton. We talked about how that's really not any drop off, and it was no disrespect to Mekhi Becton, right? Same thing. I think both of those guys really held their own and did a nice job. And Jalen Hurts had really, really nice protection. And so, to me, Adam, like the first throw he hit Calcaterra, I think it was on the first or second drive for a pretty big gain. That was a middle of the field throw that we talked about, where A, you had the protection, and B, you had to get it over the linebacker.
Deliver.
Yeah, it was like between two linebackers in a zone. And it was a beautiful throw. There weren't a ton of throws over the middle in windows, but that's okay. You make the biggest thing we said about Jalen Hurts, right? Is that there were the plays that you're supposed to make because they're there.
Yes.
And I will say this, the Bengals, I think, did a poor job of trying to force him off the first read, even on 3rd and long. They didn't bring a whole lot of pressure. They didn't do a whole lot of stuff up front. They kind of generally stuck to cover 3, and maybe some man here, some zone here, nothing like crazy, right? And the opportunities were there. Jalen saw them and he hit them. And to me, that's part of the growth that you're looking for. Obviously, as the season goes along, you're going to want to see, all right, can he do that when they're confusing, when when the first read isn't there? Who cares? For the first step in becoming better and getting yourself right, the throw is there, the guy is open, pull the trigger. He did that. That to me is a really good sign.
Yep. And on your point, just about what he did well, he stuck his foot in the ground and he delivered. I mean, that's the big thing for him. The thing that he had an issue with this season, it was a lot last season, is moving unnecessarily, which drives me crazy when you watch, like on TV, you could see some of this. When you watch it on all 22, folks, if you don't know what that means, that's on TV, you get 1 or 2 shots. You don't get what you get on all 22. The end zone shot or the wide shot, you could see him moving. You see the whole field on all 22, and it's annoying when he does this. He's got a bad habit of it, but I don't believe he did that at all. If he did, very few times, and that's the key to his growth as a passer. This is interesting from Next Gen Stats. I got this stuff sent to me. So you talked about his throws downfield on passes of over 10 yards. He went 6 of 7 for 161 and a touchdown. He also had his first career game of 3 or more rushing TDs and 1 more passing touchdown. He's the 13th player to achieve that in regular season, and he's the first since Taysom Hill, who's obviously a slash player for the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
One other note here from Next Gen: despite 35% of his pass attempts being marked as aggressive, second highest, he ended the day with plus 20% completions over expectation. Because here's the thing: remember, down passes of over 20 yards are actually a lower percentage throw.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen's just really good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hurts is good.
I mean, we mentioned this in the pregame show that this game set up well for Jalen because the Bengals defense was not playing well. Their best corner, Cam Taylor-Britt, had not been playing well, and he did not play well in this game. He fell a couple of times. That didn't help. And in general, I thought Von Bell got completely, I don't know if he's just late or lost, or maybe he didn't understand the play call, but that was one play where Calcaterra catches the ball wide open across the middle. That was supposed to be man coverage, and there was nobody within five miles of Calcaterra. But again, good throw, and it's set up well because Jalen throws strongly outside the numbers, and he was able to do that in this game. And then the pass to Devontae Smith was great ball placement. Devontae goes up and gets it. The protection was fantastic. In fact, Fred Johnson on that play did a really nice job because Trey tried to do a wide speed rush on him, and he kind of one-handed. He went with him and just rode him in a circle, in a half circle around Jalen, giving Jalen the time to then climb. Great job. We've always talked about don't leave the pocket, climb the pocket, and Jalen did a really nice job of climbing and finding Devontae Smith for the touchdown there. And the other thing that stuck out to me from a Kellen Moore standpoint, Adam, and we didn't really talk about this in the post-game show enough, if at all. It was surprising. I should have brought it up. It's on me. The number of times they went under center was the most all year. Now, some of that's people are making a huge deal of it. Some of it's inflated by the fact that they probably had about 6 tush pushes in that game. So you're always under center on the tush push. But they actually ran running plays from under center. And I believe I tried to count it. There were at least 2 examples of play action passing from under center. So I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. Someone must think maybe trying to sound like that. 2 is actually a big number for the Eagles to do under center play action passing. So, and I think it worked. I think the downhill run, you saw Saquon far more impactful as a power runner than when they were out of the shotgun trying to run. I thought the downhill run was very important for them.
See, here's the thing. We got some tempo. That's a big staple of Kellen Moore. We put this, we mentioned this months ago that one of the coaches that work with Kellen in Dallas, but this guy was a defensive coach, said he's super big on tempo. Jalen likes it. It's very clear. I think that's got to be here to stay. Tempo is just going faster.
Mm-hmm.
No huddle, whatever you want to call it, but tempo, it's just a faster way of doing things. Quarterbacks in general really like it. This is just a clean, no turnovers. Obviously, that's a big thing. But you always have to remember when you grade turnovers, it's not always on the quarterback.
Right.
Sometimes the receiver run the right route. We mentioned in the New Orleans game, we both mentioned this. Devontae should have gotten to that ball over the middle, but maybe with a stronger player physically, maybe it was Goedert going over the middle. Maybe he would have gotten it, but that was picked off. Mm-hmm. So you gotta, when you grade interceptions, it's not always on the quarterback. You actually have to know exactly what happened. But bottom line is this team's ascending, as you mentioned earlier. I got, other than the Tampa Bay game, I don't know that they've had a bad game. I honestly, their offensive line, despite all of the injuries, they've been really terrific. And Fred Johnson, what a story. I know he graded up poorly against Tampa. Since then, he's only started 11 NFL games. We have to remember that. He is playing really well. What a great Stoutland story this guy is. Really good.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt about it. And then, just to illustrate sort of how things were made easy for them, and they took advantage of it. There was like a 3rd and 8. The Eagles were driving in Bengals territory. You may remember this play. The Bengals rushed 3, which surprised the Eagles because they kept Gainwell into block. So you're literally keeping 6 in to block 3. That only gives you 4 outlets on a 3rd and 8. and the Bengals have 8 dropping. They're rushing 3, they're dropping 8. You should not be able to easily complete a pass when you have 4 versus 8, and Jalen Hurts drops back. Obviously, no pressure because it's only a 3-man rush.
Yep.
And AJ Brown just runs a deep comeback and Hurts hits him easily. Bam, he sees it, he throws it, he hits it for like 11 yards on a 3rd and 10. And I'm like, wow, the Bengal. I mean, Lou Anarando's got to be watching that, being like, what am I thinking? Right? Like, I just, or either that, or he must hate his own defense by only rushing 3.
I'm surprised, but their defense has not been good. Greg said that Cam Taylor-Britt, I know he's recognized as a good player. He hasn't had a particularly good year. Cosell was talking about that when we were doing the pregame show. So yeah, look, they took advantage of the matchups and protection with Sublime.
Yeah.
You got to feel pretty good, man. See, here's the thing, and we mentioned the depth is so much better on this football team. Fred Johnson's been a revelation. Jack Driscoll's back on the 53. Darian Kennard has been, he hasn't really played, but he's been there. Tyler Steen's been a good story. You mentioned him earlier. We didn't know about him yet. He's done a very good job filling in at right guard. This is a good story for the future. Beckton, remembers, on a 1-year deal. They have to feel really good about this. The depth at running back, Gainwell's looked better this year. Shipley unfortunately lost that touchdown. He's their third back. The tight ends have been a great story. Calcaterra's taken this game to another level in his 3rd year. Stoll's done a good job. This is Jack's 4th year. I thought it was his 3rd year. It's actually his 4th year.
Oh wow, how about because he was done with it. He was an exclusive rights guy, right? And then after 3 years, and then you signed with the Giants, and then get released or doesn't make the team and comes back to the Eagles. Yeah. It does feel like it's gone by quickly though.
Yeah. So he's back, and we mentioned earlier all these guys, Ojomo, Booker.
Yep.
All these guys, and offensively, they're staying there for a second. They're humming right now. I mean, Jalen's he's been more. The accuracy is not the issue. Now it's just hanging in there, not bailing. Okay, that's been an issue for him, but wasn't in this game. Taking what the defense gives you, not going off, like not looking off your first read when it should have gone to your first progression, which is a real problem in that Giants game. Didn't seem to be a problem here. What do you think overall from their offense? Was it overall a very good performance, generally, from the tape you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the tape. I was a little surprised by the Bengals' approach, but nonetheless, if you're looking to see improvement from the Eagles as far as seeing it, throwing it, mixing your run and pass, going under center, using tempo, it checked off all the boxes there. Distributing the ball evenly to a lot of different receivers absolutely was there. So I have, very few qualms with anything they did. And also, I forgot to mention, I thought Kellen, the use of designed quarterback runs were effective in the first half of last year. There was only maybe like 3 or 4, but they were effective when they were called. And that was part of loosening up the Bengals defense.
I want to mention that Hurts looked the best he's looked running football. Remember,
decisive.
His yardage was brought down. He had under 40 yards because of the goal line carries, the short yardage carries.
Yep.
He had a number of runs of 6 yards or more. He looked really good, explosive. Yeah. And that's important because you just mentioned it. They had a number of designed runs. That's really important. This is how you get the offense going, because if defenses are worried about him running, which they weren't last year, if you're worried about him running, hello 22. Because they were sure as hell worried about him running the football in 22, the defenses.
Absolutely. There's a great block by Lane Johnson on what turned out to be not a designed run, but Hurts scrambles up the middle. But what happens is the Bengals bring 2 extra rushers, including a nickel. Remember, this is what the Chiefs did to the Eagles a lot last year. They would bring McDuffie from the nickel. I think that's where Anaramo probably got the concept. It might have been, and they played zone behind it, so it might have been fire zone. So linebacker, nickel come, right? And so Lane blocks the defensive end who's head up on him, but then as he's blocking him and passing him off to the inside, he notices the edge and he sees that the pocket is collapsing. So he literally does a 360-degree turn to spin and block the edge guy, which gave Hurts just enough time to sort of get skinny and then run through it is an amazing block because of how big Lane Johnson is to be able to block a 300-pound guy in front of you, then execute a 360 spin and get the edge rusher. He kind of gets his elbow into him just enough so that Hurts can step up and run through the middle. The type of athlete you have to be to pull that off is just, I can't even comprehend it. It was an amazing play.
So not only that, remember when he bent his leg back and he looked like because if you remember, he went down and he looked up like he was yelling.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we've seen this before, and thankfully it was nothing. At least we'll see what the injury report looks like.
Yeah.
But because yeah, the damn pop-up injury report, oh,
Yeah.
we'll
I
see.
feel we
We
should have
don't know.
mentioned
We what's that?
we should have mentioned that in the among the injuries that
Yeah,
beware the
exactly.
pop
Yeah,
up.
we'll see. Lane is a warrior, man. He is unbelievable. He's going to be a Hall of Famer someday.
Yeah.
I truly believe. I don't. I vote in a couple polls, but I don't get to do the Hall of Fame. But I do wonder if people will understand. Okay, yeah, he had a couple of those suspensions. I
Hmm.
get it, but that's very early in his career. You're talking about the NFL's best tackle. Okay, Trent Williams. It's Trent Williams probably going to be a Hall of Famer. It's either or.
Oh, he'll be Trent Williams will be a Hall of
Yeah, he'll
Famer
be a Hall
for
of Famer,
sure.
but
Yeah.
Trent's also in his mid-30s too.
Hmm.
But I think Lane actually might be better. Again, it's subjective. What do you like? Whatever the case may be. But Lane is
Hmm.
unbelievable. And this story of this offensive lineman, we have not talked about it enough how good of a job they've done with all the challenges for the right tackle missing time. I mean, yeah, Lane missed a game.
Yep.
Milano on IR.
Yep.
Cam Jurgens is new. Beckett's never played guard before. Are you kidding me? Steen,
Yep.
he got thrown in there, did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
And
pretty
listen,
good
they
story.
they they had some issues early on that they've corrected too. So it's not
Yes.
just talent. I mean, Jeff Stoutland's done a nice job there. He's improved it. Every once in a while they still let a free rusher go, but I think that's just gonna happen the way defensive coordinators are scheming all across the league now. They put a lot of guys at scrimmage and try to mess up your protection. And like Greg Cosell says, you can't change your protection after the snap in the middle of your
Yeah.
set. So you're going to see this on a week to week basis, free rushers. So that becomes then on the quarterback to make sure that they see it and get rid of the ball. But yeah, offensive line really starting to come together there. All right, we'll get to some defensive observations in a minute. We just want to stop real quick or pause real quick to hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you hop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you and get ready for the best car buying experience of your life and the greatest customer service that you can ask for in an era when you just don't get customer service anymore when you're car shopping. Trust me on that. All right. So defensive observations, Adam. I thought Vic interestingly played, and I wonder if this was because T. Higgins was out. Like last week against the Giants, there was a lot of coverage, a lot of too high, a lot of too high, a lot of too high. This week more split between two high and then one high man. He played a decent amount of man defense. And so he was willing to take his shot with Jamar Chase in man coverage. And of course, Chase did have 11 targets and 9 catches, but only 54 yards. 9 for 54 is not
Really good.
catastrophic. So
No.
they did a decent job, especially given that the Eagles didn't get a great pass rush. They had 1 sack. It was split between Smith and Milton Williams. It was not a speed to power sack. It was more like Nolan just beat Amarius Mims with a speed rush. Amarius tried to get his hands on him, but too late. Like Nolan's too quick. And then honestly, the better rush on that was from Williams, who had to split a double team between the right guard and the center, and he kind of swam through him, powered his way through, and helped cleaned up on that sack. So that was enough. Milton Williams, as Greg mentioned, has been giving you subtly some really good pass rushing reps, and he did it on that play and got a half a sack credit. But in general, you saw a lot more man coverage this week. We'll talk to Greg about that. And Cooper DeJean, man, he made some really nice plays. Cooper DeJean is the upgrade is working. It's helping, and he's made a big difference.
He is. It's only 3 games. So we have to be careful.
Yes.
But the way that they're using him, the credit to Christian Parker, the DB's coach, and obviously Fangio for getting it, for understanding how to do it. But he's made an impact, and I'll be interested to see what happens in future years if this keeps up. Will he play the Malcolm Jenkins role? Will he be in the box DB like he is now, or linebacker? How will they use him? Like he's so far ahead of schedule for missing all that time, as Vic talked about on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a great story. You got to love his ability to make plays. He's a great athlete. He's also a really good punt returner. That's going to be a fascinating situation when Britton Covey comes off IR. What do they do at punt returner? They're so good there.
Yeah.
That's a really good story. I got to ask you this question. You saw the tape. Zach Bond, what were your thoughts about him?
They continued to use him as a fifth rusher at times where instead of like showing blitz, you just at the last second sort of bring him onto the line of scrimmage as a fifth rusher and have him stunt or twist on the inside. And I thought that was really effective. I thought both the linebackers, but there was one play where Nakobe, it looked like he was out of place on the Jasicki catch along the left sideline, which was wide open on a third down. It looked like maybe Nakobe was confused by either the offensive formation or where he was supposed to be. But other than that, I thought he played really well. I thought the interior, the two linebackers and DeJean really made enough plays to make it difficult for Joe Burrow to move the ball methodically. It doesn't look like Joe was trying to go deep on every play, right? He was trying to, like he did on the first drive, just pepper the middle of the field, Jasicki, Eric All, a couple of stick routes to Chase and try to move the ball that way. He took a couple of shots, but not a lot. But that middle of the field after the first drive tightened up. In fact, Adam, there's one play we're gonna talk about with Greg Cosell, okay? And it's 2nd and 22 in the second quarter, okay? I think this is right after this Nolan Smith sack. All right, and the Bengals are in a 1-by-3, 1 to the left side, 3 by the right side. And, DeJean is over the number 2. So he's over the slot receiver on that side. And they just basically play a basic cover 2, okay? And the guy that DeJean was across, the slot receiver, I think it was Yoshevis, he just runs a straight vertical route. So all DeJean does at that point is you take your drop, right? And then you defend it for as long as, and then you pass it on to the safety. So after he passes Yoshevis onto the safety, he actually looks behind him. This is as Burrow is cocking his right arm. He looks behind him and he sees the route that the number 1 to the outside is running, which is a dig straight and across the middle. And he then drops to where he thinks the ball is going to go to Burton on the dig. And he almost picks it off. To have the understanding after you pass off your guy to then look back and see what the other route is and if you can defend it, and then to get into your spot and get your hands on the ball was tremendous. Because if he doesn't do that, I think the pass is complete to Burton on the 2nd and 22, and he's at least getting 18 or 19 back. I don't know if he's getting the first down. He might, but if he's not, it sets up a really easy, manageable third down, right? So I thought that was a really, really alert heads up play that shows you the mental aspect of his game. We already saw the physical, right? We saw him make a tackle on the 4th down. We saw him make a couple of tackles on the flat on a screen. He blew up a screen by getting off of his block and slowing down Jamar Chase. And then somebody else made the tackle, but the mental part of the game is there too. And I thought we'll talk about it with Greg. I thought it was a really heads up play.
Yeah. He's been a great story. No question about it. So overall, look, they have to feel pretty good about how they handled it. It didn't look good early, though. It did not look good early, but what they did is they moved Burrow off his spot in the second half. When they had to throw all the time, he rushed some throws because it looked like that first series, really the first 2 series, but particularly the first one. Here we go again, Baker Mayfield game.
Yep.
Remember when Brady went against him on like a Sunday night game in 21? Sirianni's first year, that was the ultimate pitch and catch game. I'm like, here we go again, free access, but they started to slow it down, and they started to make Burrow move a little bit. And I give the coaches credit. Look, we know they want to play off coverage. We get it. They're not going to play a lot of man coverage. That's the thing. They don't blitz a lot, but you have to adjust sometimes. Vic has to do that, and they did a really good job of it.
100%. And we will continue to talk about it all week long here on the Inside the Birds platform. We've already had Q&A with This Is ITB. We'll have Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell, Derek Gunn, one-on-one. He's got Mike Quick kind of this week. Yep. Nice. So good stuff from Mike Quick on Eagles wide receivers. And of course, the Inside the Birds pregame show later in the week. So a lot of great stuff here on the Inside the Birds platform. Andrew DeCecco with his rookie diary and Inside the Locker Room as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us. Inside the Bird. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.